Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of PodClass by the Serbian team. My name is Dunja Krsmanović, and I will be your host. Today, we are honored to be joined by one of the most promising young Serbian flutists of his generation, Strahinja Radoičić. Strahinja began his musical journey at the age of 7 and has since developed into an accomplished performer with an impressive international profile. After completing his studies at the Faculty of Music in Belgrade under the Professor Ljubiša Jovanović, he continued his master's and artistic development at the prestigious Music Academy in Paris. Throughout his career, Strahinja has refined his artistry through masterclasses with some of the world's most renowned flutists. His dedication and talent have been recognized through numerous awards and first prizes at national and international competitions, establishing him as a distinguished performer on the Serbian and European music stages and scenes. As a soloist, chamber musician, and orchestral performer, he has appeared with ensembles such as the Stanislav Binički Artistic Ensemble, the Symphony Orchestra of the Faculty of Music, and the Youth Philharmonic Borislav Paščan. He has also participated in major international flute festivals and academies across Europe and Asia, including events in London, Zagreb, Karlovac, and China. In addition, he has performed as a guest musician with the Belgrade Philharmonic Orchestra and is a member of the award-winning chamber ensemble Trio Agatos. In today's episode, we will talk to Strahinja about many interesting things, such as the challenges of studying both in Belgrade and Paris, the rewards of building an international performing career, and also the importance of opportunities that will be given to you when you get out of your comfort zone. Welcome to this episode and enjoy. Strahinja, thank you for joining our episode of PodClass today, and thank you for taking the time to speak with us. I am so excited to talk about a lot of things that you are pursuing in your career. The thing that I'm most excited about is talking about your stage performance and your artistic path. You're a flutist, also you are a researcher here at the Faculty of Music. So basically, I would like to start with your education here and also your work here. What does your typical day look like here at the faculty?
First of all, thank you for inviting me. When it comes to my education, I think it was quite, I would say, maybe traditional, but maybe not as much, because especially in high school, I went to two high schools. One was, of course, music high school, and the other one was the Fifth Gymnasium, and I think it gave me a very solid ground for any future artistic development. One of the most, I could say, important things in my life is to be very well informed and educated in that sense, because I think it's a duty for an artist to be very well informed and educated as well. After that, I enrolled in the program for flute performance here at the Faculty of Music in Belgrade. I finished my bachelor's, and then I pursued my artistic diploma in Paris at École Normale with Professor Claude Lefebvre. She's the first flutist of Paris Opera, and that experience was very, very amazing. And in parallel, I did also a master's degree here in Belgrade. And after finishing that degree, I came back to Belgrade to do my DA, my Doctor of Arts degree, diploma thing. And then I pursued this job as a researcher here to work with students, to help in their preparations with their artistic development, technical skills, preparing for the exams, and etc. So that's about it.
Oh, amazing. And could you tell us a little bit about your experience in Paris? What was different when you compare it to faculty here in Belgrade? What was the better or worse things that you experienced there?
I think it's a bit ungrateful to talk what is better and what is worse. Always there are many differences, and it's very difficult to compare, because Serbia and France, it's two different countries with different history, and especially in the context of music, and especially classical music. The thing that was really good for me and for my development was the whole artistic scene in general, not just music, but also in visual arts, drama, theater, movies, and stuff like that. And it's an amazing experience for any young artist to be in a place where you have so much content, you cannot even, it's impossible, it's really impossible to go to see and hear everything. So that was really, really amazing for me. And also I had a lot of chances to meet very great artists and to to go and listen to them, meet them, spend some time with them, and that really, I think, helped my development in the artistic sense. On the other hand, when it comes to pedagogy and their approach to studying music, it's a bit different. But in the end, it turned out quite good. It was sometimes a tough love. It was sometimes quite harsh. I had to work a lot, but it was amazing.
So would you recommend any other students pursue exchange projects or go abroad, study, network?
Absolutely. I think it's a vital experience for a young artist to really get out of his or her comfort zone in the context of country, nationality, and school as well, to really pursue a different artistic scene. I think it's extremely important. It's not just about music or just about playing and the technicality and I can say like the technical knowledge of it. I think it's a very nice character development in the psychological sense. I think it's extremely important to meet other people, other nations, religions, races. I think it's very, very important to broaden our views, to as well develop our internal world, because I think as an artist it's our duty to really communicate what we feel, what we think, but in order to communicate something we have to have something. So I think it's very important to fulfill our internal world.
I've read in your interviews how you said about gaining a perspective. Pretty much when you travel you gain so many new perspectives and it broadens your view as a musician. So would you tell that a musician cannot really be fully themselves if they're not traveling always? Because you're pretty much an advocate for traveling, right?
Yeah, I mean, I cannot have like a very fixed conclusion in that sense, but I think it really does help. Like I said before, especially the psychological and character development, I think it's extremely important, because as an artist, especially a young artist and a person, it's our job to find ourselves, but also to develop ourselves. And I think it really helps if you meet a lot of people, meet different artists, go into many different fields, not just artistic, but also science-wise. So I think it's very, very important.
I also want to talk a little bit about the concerts that you're organizing. There are like so many. And I think this also comes from a place of networking and collaboration, which is like everything a musician needs in their career. So can you tell us a little bit about your recent projects and what was the idea behind them?
Yeah, in this past, I could say like maybe a year and a half, I also left, let's say, maybe a traditional context of music playing. I think I had a small breakthrough in that sense. When it comes to networking and working with other people, also I think it's quite important. And in my work, I try to make a great connection with visual artists as well, but also some kind of poetry, sculptural, artistic moments. In different spaces, I think classical musicians, it's our duty to also leave the classical music concert halls. I think it's not fair toward the audience and also towards the music. So I try to go into different theaters, different alternative spaces, and I think it's very, very important. And in general, I think we should maybe try to change some things, especially in the sense of traditional playing, because I think a modern man today craves some sort of an experience, not just like this isolated thing where I come, I play a concert, everyone claps and everyone goes home and it's okay, but I think it doesn't have a lot of impact. So we should try to always interfere in some sense, to make intervention, even though if it's maybe technical or artistic, to try to make things a bit different. I could say to always for a recital to not just be a mix of different programs. I would always recommend having a very fixed and concrete theme or like a concept, or try to manipulate some of the elements of visual aspect of music and also performance aspects. I think it's very, very important. It really helps. And from my personal experience, the audience is always quite happy, but it's not always just making the audience happy. We are always trying to make an impact, and I think it has an impact, because after that they leave that concert or performance, and I could see in their eyes that they're a bit moved or changed, or they're starting to think about some other things, and I think that's the biggest success we could have as an artist.
So as a performer who has performed a lot of contemporary pieces, what was something that you realized, or what were some breakthroughs that you had in collaboration with some contemporary composers?
Yeah, I had many, I think, we could say revelations in that sense. I think it's very important to work with young artists, young composers, contemporary composers in that sense, because as an artist we will broaden our views. In the beginning it is a bit scary because our job is quite traditional in that sense. First time when you see like contemporary techniques and extended techniques, it can be quite scary, but I think if we trust the process and really work hard, we could get there. And also there's always this duality of things where on one side you have like traditional classical music, on the other one is contemporary, and it's like two different worlds that cannot collide, but I think they're extremely connected. And also if someone starts to really work on contemporary pieces, I think in the long run also traditional part of classical music will be better. So I think it's like a two-way street, so we should not be that how can I say, very close-minded and very strict that it's either this or either that. I think we should do everything.
Yeah, we should accept something in between, right?
Absolutely.
And when it comes to the audience, when you performed some contemporary pieces, what was the reaction that you experienced? Was it confusion or acceptance?
It really depends on the piece that I play, and also it depends on the audience as well. What can I say? It's always, you never know what you will get, and I think that's the beauty of it. And also it really depends on the place where you perform, in the context of nationality, or I could just say country and institution. And also I could say that each concert hall has its specific audience, so it really depends what is audience used to, and reactions are always different. But I think if we have reactions, it's a good thing. If the audience is numb or zero reactions, I think it's a bad thing. So from my personal experience, I had a lot of different reactions. Sometimes I was not super happy, sometimes I was super happy, but I think it's always a good thing, because you will continue working. And also I think an artist, we need to develop some sort of a radar for audience, how to read them, how to communicate with them. It's not just a musician is not someone on the stage that's like closed off from the audience. I think the audience is an active participant in the whole performance of musical playing. So I think it's very important to include them, to communicate with them, and also the end result will be quite different.
Yeah, here also at the faculty we learn a lot about how the art is never itself finished, because it needs to get to the audience first in order to be finished. So I also read, you said something about that. What are your aims as an artist? What do you want to accomplish when it comes to the communication with the audience?
So I think my main motive is always to set this playing ground for abstract and intellectual thinking, and also some sort of emotional engagement. I think audience, when they leave the concert hall, they should be in some sense moved, or just if I give them that spark for any future thinking, for their maybe personal internal thinking, or maybe just thinking about art and stuff like that. I think it's my biggest and foremost motive.
Maybe also critical thinking.
Yeah, as well, always.
Let's go a little bit further from this topic. I want to talk about some digital stuff. Are you still using the pen and paper method, or are you sticking with an iPad?
It really depends. Like day to day, I use my iPad. I'm very grateful to have it. It's a really practical gadget for, I think, for all of musicians. On the other hand, sometimes, even though I really adore technology and I play a lot with like electronics, tapes and stuff like that, I adore computers, technology. It's really amazing stuff. On the other hand, sometimes it is a different experience when you have something that's like physical, like a paper in front of you. So it really depends what is my job and like day to day. I think when I'm more devoted to something and when I work like longer hours for a longer period, I try to make a hard copy, because I like to write a lot and to really have it like a physical piece, not just on my iPad.
Yeah. And which apps do you most usually use?
in that sense, I'm super simple. I just use the IMSLP app that works as like Fourscore. I don't think we need anything more than that. If you have like a PDF viewer and also a pen that you can write, I think it's more than enough. And on the other hand, you need some apps like a tuner, metronome, stuff like that, and also social media and music platforms. Of course, it's always important, but when it comes to this, I don't think we have to complicate it.
Also, I'd like to speak a little bit about concerts. When it comes to organizing concerts, what do you think is the most important thing to keep in mind?
I don't know. I think we should try to always, at least from my experience and my idea, is always to try to serve something new, something different. It doesn't have to be a new piece. It doesn't have to be something radically progressive or different. I think it just needs to be. We need to give maybe a new point of view, a different point of view, because I think music by itself, it doesn't speak a lot. We're the one that give it the context, and I think. Let's say, like, if you take a piece from like Bach or Mozart, it can be also quite a contemporary thing if you put it in the context of some other pieces, or maybe you have a different theme, idea. And I think that's what's like most important for me when it comes to organizing things and conceptually organizing as well. Yeah,
I also like that when you organize concerts, you have this idea that you come from, and it's most usually something conceptual, which is, I mean, pretty much something that students are never really inspired to do, or I think maybe they're in this traditional box where they don't think conceptually, which is like really nice. And I wanna ask about, does this for you look like something that it's courageous, like a bold move, or is it something that you're like, this is the only way that it should be? Of course, it should be conceptual. People are coming to a concert. It's not just like a traditional classical concert.
Yeah, I think it also depends on the context of the whole happening and this like event side of the story. But for me personally, I think it's a must. I developed this, I could say, taste towards this conceptual music, or just an idea to always have a theme, to always have a story, backstory, some context, because I really stand behind this premise that music by itself, it doesn't speak a lot. It's not a language, which is like this phrase that always comes back. I don't think it's a language, even though it could be a tool for communication. Still, it's not a language. Is this system of like these pseudo symbols, and I think we should treat it like that, to not mystify it and to make it something that it's not, to be quite practical in that sense. And I think always giving it some context, it goes a very, very, very long way, because the audience always, it's like giving a canvas, and you have to color the canvas. You have to make something out of it. Just by itself, it's not doing a lot.
Yeah, and for example, in Serbia, we have this really weird stage for performing with classical music, and it can really be an amazing audience, or it can be like a really uneducated audience that doesn't know what they're being served. So, from your experience, what does the audience's reaction look like to these conceptual concerts?
I think also, as always, depends on the audience, of course, their level of knowledge, or how much are they informed about it. It really depends. But I think the reaction is always positive. If you serve something that it's always new, something different, you give a different point of view, I think people will accept it. Even though maybe sometimes, if it's something quite radical or maybe scandalous, it could be a shock moment for the audience. I think it's a good thing, because something is happening, something is changing, it's always evolving. We're not like jumping in this one place. So I don't have a problem with that. I think the reaction is always a good thing.
Yeah. Also, at the beginning of your education, what were your expectations about a musician's life? Did anything change so far?
I don't think I had that many expectations. I only had like personal expectations of myself to work a lot, to do well, to in that sense be successful. But over the years, I think my motivations and ambitions changed a bit. I think in this world of like technology, internet, media, social media stuff, it's quite capitalistic. Even though I'm not against capitalism, it's very like you have to be successful, to make money, to be famous, and all of that. But I think it's not a real like a show of artistic success. I think it's quite internal, and also if it's an internal, I think it always finds a way like to get outside towards the audience.
Yeah. And do you think in this world of classical music, do we really need to focus on social media more? Because we are not so popular? It's like art.
Yeah, I think yes. I think absolutely. When I was like starting my professional career, I always found it quite difficult to post on like social media, Instagram, Facebook. I always found it a bit superficial and fake. But during the years, I accepted it because it's just a part of a job. If we treat it like that, it is much easier to like, let's say, swallow it. If you obsess about it, I think it becomes a bad thing. So in general, I think it's very, very important, this idea of being an artist that's like isolated, no one has touch with them. For someone that's young and in their developing phases, and also in the context of classical music, I think it's a false idea.
Yeah, it can also be very toxic for the mind, and
yeah.
Basically,
I would add that we should not obsess. It's not everything. We should still work and be devoted to our primary work. But on the other hand, it's one of the most prolific and important channels of communication and getting out there, and it's a good thing.
Yeah. And when it comes to your mental health, do you think social media has any impact?
Yeah, I think it has. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. It's always important to really stick to your grounds, to stick to your core beliefs and your like belief system. If you dwell too much or spend too much time on social media, you start to maybe compare yourself to others, and also you have something that's very selected, and it's very curated, and you put it out there, and people look at those things and think, oh wow, this is amazing, because all of us, we try to only show the best sides of our job and ourselves, but it gives a false, maybe it's not a maybe, it's for sure a false reality. So I don't think we should really compare ourselves to that, because also we have very different starting points. It's consisted of like financial support, schools that we went to, professors, personal experiences, also like psychological development, character development, stuff like that. So we should not really compare ourselves to that because it can be quite toxic, and in the long run it's detrimental. And we should really accept that each of us have their own personal road and personal journey, and we should just believe it and be content with that.
Yeah. Wow, that's an amazing answer. And I would like to end this discussion with a question that sounds like, if you have any advice or like final words for some musicians that are watching, what would they be?
So my final words, I think artists should be always curious, always experimenting, never stopping. If you have the sense that, okay, I did it and I can just hang out, relax, I think it's I could call it, even though it sounds harsh, I could call it an artistic death. We should always strive to continue our work, to really be curious, be bold, be brave, to try many different things, to also on the other hand get very well educated, to learn a lot of things, not just artistic wise but also science wise, to sometimes try to do other form of art. I think it's very, very good for our primary art, but also our artistic development in general. So I would just say that stay curious.
Let me write that down. Thank you for those words, and thank you for being on the show. I'm very glad to have you here because you're a colleague of mine, and I'm so happy that you talked to us about all of these things. And I hope to see you somewhere soon in some article.
Thank
I hope you stay curious.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.